Hi, it's Shola here from Speak Up and Shine. And what I want to do today is talk about business networking and why it's so important to stand out. Hi, it's Shola here. And last week I was chatting to the head of business development of a reasonably big sized law firm here in London. And we were talking about some potential training opportunities for their staff. And he mentioned the fact that a lot of the staff at that company, or not a lot, but a proportion of them, don't enjoy business networking, even though they are tasked with growing their particular area of their law firm by getting out there and actually bringing the business in. And I thought business networking, most of us who are self-employed and also many people who work for companies have to go out there and make themselves known and not necessarily tout directly for business from the networking, because that's not necessarily how business networking works, but it's about achieving some visibility, being seen, being remembered, and then hopefully when somebody needs someone like you, they'll give you a call, or indeed they may pass your details on to the sort of contacts that you're looking for if you get to articulate that during the networking meeting. And the sort of networking meetings I'm talking about or referring to here in this video are particularly the ones where you get a little moment to speak to the entire group. So in the UK and in the USA, I believe they have BNI, where in a BNI meeting, which is Business Networking International, that's what it stands for. In a BNI meeting, there's a period where everybody gets to speak for 60 seconds, talk about who they are, what they do, and then what sort of contacts they are looking for. And there are other groups like that. Here in the UK, there's Women in Business Networking, which I belong to. There's Athena Networking. There's lots of them. In addition to those sorts of groups, of course, there are the ones where it's more like perhaps a cocktail party, or maybe some sort of breakfast canapes where you go along. You don't really get a formal opportunity to speak to the entire group, but it's really more of a sort of informal situation where you're doing a bit of networking, chat to this one, chat to that one, and you're just sort of working the room. I particularly don't enjoy those sorts of situations. I prefer where I actually get my time to speak, but everybody's different. So, but what I want to talk about now are those situations where you do get your little platform for, sometimes it's as short as 30 seconds, sometimes it can be longer, like even 2 minutes, but where you have that platform where you get to stand up and you get to present something which, you may have prepared before, or you may just wing it. But those situations, there are a lot of people out there who fear those sorts of networking opportunities, just as they might fear a public speaking opportunity. And I want to talk about why it's so important to, if you are at these sort of networking events, to really embrace them and to stand out as best you can. And the reason for this is because people buy people, right? There's a number of reasons which I want to go into now, but the first one is that people buy people. And if you don't take the opportunity to show a little bit of who you are during your 60 seconds, you are much more likely to be forgotten. Now, if you do decide to show part of your personality, that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody is going to flock to you, because we all have our preferences. So one person in the audience or in the group might love a pitch that has a bit of humour. Another one might love a 60-second pitch that's very earnest and very, very like reaching out from the heart. Another one might need to learn that somebody's a very kind person or very giving, and that might be what it is that attracts them to speak to that person at the end of the meeting and try and set up a one-to-one, or at least get the business card and remember them. But people buy people. So even if you're representing a big business and you feel that, how can I represent my entire business? I've got my particular personality. Maybe it's very different than the kind of business personality or the way the business comes across, but it's still important to be you when you are up there during your 60 seconds. Because first of all, if you're not you, then people won't really get that sense of who you are and be attracted to you. And then if you are sort of masquerading behind some sort of corporate personality that you think that you have to kind of don or put on over yourself to represent your business adequately, then quite often that's where we come across as being a bit sort of uncomfortable and not really allowing ourselves to shine. So the first reason is that people buy people, and so you've got to let people be attracted to who you really are, who you naturally are. The second reason is you want to stand out during your 60 seconds or your little pitch, because the goal is not necessarily to represent exactly what your business does in 60 seconds, because for most of us, we are multifaceted. Perhaps we work for a full service law firm or an accountancy that has different practices, or as a business owner, we serve different kinds of clients. So in 60 seconds, it might be incredibly difficult to cram all of that information in, so people get this real sort of range of exactly what it is you do. But you can, if you manage to stand out, you can attract people to want to speak to you afterwards. And that really should be your goal, because then that's where you start to build a relationship with somebody, and then they can start thinking, oh, okay, well, yeah, maybe I do have some people I can refer to this individual, or okay, I really enjoyed chatting to them. Oh, yeah, perhaps I could use them to help me do X, Y, and Z, right? So your goal is really not to kind of explain exactly what your company does and squeeze it all into 60 seconds and speak as fast as you possibly can so you get it all out there. That's not the goal. The goal is to give people enough that you're intriguing and that you're memorable, and they want to come and chat to you, and they want to take it further. They may not have a direct opportunity for you at that time, but you're interesting enough and appealing enough that they think, oh, let's set up a chat, maybe a coffee, maybe an online one-to-one conversation with that individual, and then who knows what can happen once you've had that conversation. Okay, so then the third reason that you want to stand out is, of course, because you want to differentiate yourself and your company. Now, at a lot of these business networking events, they will have what they call a lockout. So that means that they will only have perhaps one business coach there. They wouldn't invite two business coaches to be at the same meeting. Or there may only be one, let's take another example. There may only be one video editor, right? They wouldn't have two. So to some extent, already as the sole person representing your industry at that event, you will be to some extent sort of differentiated because you're the only one there. But if you take something like plumbing or I don't know, being an electrician or painter, or a lot of the sorts of professions that you often find at, say, a BNI meeting, Business Networking International, why would I choose one plumber over another, right? If I look in the phone book, there might be 100 plumbers in my particular area. Or even if I sort of Google online and say, plumber London, how many will pop up, right? Tons. So the goal is, you've got out of bed, you've gone to this event, you've put your clothes on and, paid some money presumably to be there. You want to differentiate yourself. And that doesn't just mean I'm the only plumber in the room. It also means that when you think of a plumber, you think of me, right? And so how can you differentiate yourself to such an extent that you are so memorable that people forget the hordes of other tradesmen or professionals doing exactly what you do, and they want to come to you? And so that's where your personality comes into it, because there could be 50 plumbers who all have 5 A-star recommendations. Okay, they're all quick, they're all sort of obviously variety of prices, but they're all quick, they're all they're reasonably priced, etc. So why you? But if you stand out as the plumber who perhaps you read a quote about doing things in emergencies before you go into the rest of your 60 seconds, or perhaps you tell a little joke about plumbing kind of is a bit of a if you think about what plumbers have to do and where they put their hands, you may tell a joke about that. And obviously it doesn't just apply to plumbing, it could apply to anything, right? So you want to try and allow your personality to shine through what you do. And in that way you get to differentiate yourself. So let me give you some examples of how you can let yourself shine through. And for example, in the business networking I do, there's a lawyer that goes to one of the groups, and she's incredibly kind and helpful. And she comes across as being the sort of person who would do anything for you, even if there's no kind of work or, work potential or opportunity for being hired attached to that. She would just put herself out because that's the kind of person that she is. So if somebody demonstrates kindness when they're giving their 60 seconds, then all those people who are really moved by kindness in that room will think, oh, I'd love to chat to her. She seems like just the kind of person that I enjoy speaking to, and I'd love to hear how I can help her. Or it may be that you have a sense of humour, right? So, you throw in a couple of jokes here and there, and then all those people who are attracted to humour and a bit of a laugh will want to chat to you some more, because perhaps that means that they can reveal more of their humorous side when they're speaking to you. Okay, if I take myself as an example, as somebody who is a professional singer as well, I sometimes like to make my 60 seconds, or just part of it, perhaps set some of the words to a pop song that people know. And again, that will help to make me memorable. And in the last month or so, I've won a couple of best pictures. I've won a little silver frame here, and I won some sunflowers because I took a couple of minutes out to make my 60 seconds a little bit more unusual than most people's. But you don't have to sing, you don't have to be a performer. Perhaps you have a quote, or you even look on the internet and you find a little joke that's applicable to you and what you do, and you read that joke at the beginning. It doesn't have to be like a very long one, just very, very brief, right? Because you've only got 60 seconds, of course. Or you may want to talk about a client problem, and maybe even talk about that problem from the perspective of how sympathetic you were, and how when that person came to you, how you reached out and formed a bond with them and really connected with them, and showed them that you cared before you even started to solve the problem. There's a variety of different ways that you can show who you are when you give your 60 seconds. But the important thing is that you do that so that people can connect with you. They can think, oh, I'd love to actually speak to that person more. And then that's where the opportunity comes, because then they want to talk to you, you have a conversation, there's time, they can start thinking more deeply about who they can refer you to, and then that's when business starts to flow in both directions. Another example, I was speaking to a woman last week who I'd met at business networking, and she's a social media expert, but she revealed to me in our call that she also used to do a lot of poetry slam and poetry jams, and she loves putting words together in verse and reciting those. And I said, well, why don't you create a 60 seconds or even 30 seconds of a little bit of poetry? So that just makes us think, oh wow, that's amazing. And she said, oh yeah, I should do that. I really should. It would be very easy for me. So we've all got something that helps us to stand out. Some are natural performers. Some of you have got certain facets of your personality that are very appealing to people. But don't be afraid to let that side of yourself show. Because as I say, it's not necessarily about cramming as much as you can into 60 seconds about the services that you offer, or your business or your company offers. It's about giving people a little bit of an insight into who you are, obviously what you do and how you do it, but just enough that they're intrigued or interested and want to take the next step. So at the end of that meeting, they come up and they say, oh, okay, I'd love to chat to you some more, or let's arrange a coffee. So to summarise, the 3 reasons that I've shared with you, and there are doubtless many more than this, but again, you don't want to spend your whole day here with me on YouTube listening to this, so let's keep it brief. So the first reason is because people buy people. Okay, so be human and appeal to the human being in others, so they want to take that next step. The second reason is the goal is not necessarily to share every little thing that you do during 60 seconds, because that will be a very jam-packed 60 seconds with you speaking very, very quickly and perhaps not even being understandable. But the goal is to want to form a relationship with individuals in the room. And so by standing out, sharing a bit of who you are, you're more likely to attract the sort of people who want to talk to you. And the final reason, of course, is to differentiate yourself. because there are doubtless many others that do what you do, or at least similar to what you do. So you want to stand out. You've made the effort to be in the room. You've made the effort to actually be in a situation where you can connect with people on a human level. They're actually getting your essence from being in that room with you. And so why not go that little bit further and really make that effort to stand out, so that your personality really does bloom during your 60 seconds and people really do get the essence of who you are and want to come and chat to you and further that relationship. So that's it from me today. And if you are interested in perhaps working on your 60-second pitch for your business networking, perhaps you're just starting a business now and you want to do some networking and you're a bit nervous about it, or perhaps you want to brush up on your pitches and create a variety of different pitches for different situations and you need some guidance with that, then why not book a 15-minute call with me, a Speak with Confidence call, where we can decide whether it makes sense to have a VIP session with me. Maybe you can book a half day or a full day VIP session and come away with perhaps 5 or even 10 or more of these 60-second pitches that you can work on and you can use when you go out networking. And we can also work on your archetype, who you are as a business, so that we really pinpoint exactly what it is you want to shine through every time you speak to an audience, whether it's for business networking or indeed whether it's a public speaking opportunity where you get to speak for 10, 20, 30 minutes, half an hour, whatever it may be. So that's it from me, and I will see you next time. That's Shola Kaye signing out from Speak Up and Shine.